Okay.
Like
after the draft was over.
Oh, after the draft was over, not after he was just picked.
Yeah, not right when he was picked. Not before he was picked. Not the draft ends. Detroit calls Seattle trying to trade for Rashaad Penny, first-round running back, according to Jay Glazer. Now, part of me doesn't believe it. Part of me thinks they just took Kerryon Johnson.
Right.
How many picks later? Because remember they traded up.
So Rashaad Penny didn't he go before Kerryon?
Yes, 27th pick of the first round.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
It's okay.
Yeah, because he went. I'm sure you'll have it in front of you. You're right. I know he went to Seattle because he played last night. He looked good last night, up until he tweaked the leg. But Lions got Kerryon like halfway through the second round, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was probably like 10, 15 picks later. And they didn't want Rashaad Penny and Kerryon Johnson, did they?
I mean, this has to be a misunderstanding here, right?
No, they could have. You know what? They could have called that night after the draft was over because day one is just round one.
It's true. It is
the
just
Lions
round one.
Before they even drafted Kerryon Johnson, could have called and said, "Hey, what do you want for Rashaad Penny?"
Didn't he say after the draft was over?
That could still mean he could have misspoken. Could have been after the first round.
Let's hear Jay again. Yeah.
Rashaad Penny, this is the guy they want to start building on the future. They drafted him in the 27th pick overall, and then after they picked him in April in the draft in the first round, something happened I've never heard. A team actually called them right after and said, we now want to trade for the player you just selected. The Detroit Lions did it. Unbelievable. Never heard about that before in my life.
See, now
he
that's
didn't say after the draft.
Yeah, he didn't say after the draft. I don't know what he's
saying. But why is this unbelievable?
I don't know.
I don't know why it's unbelievable.
I think the only thing that's unbelievable is if the whole draft is over.
This is like the Monday after the draft.
And then they called to make a trade. And I'm surprised that is even unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Right. I wouldn't think it is.
But were they trying to get Rashaad Penny and Kerryon Johnson? Or were they trying to trade Kerryon Johnson for Rashaad Penny? Or is this a bunch of poi?
I think it's the third option. They just wanted Rashaad Penny. I think, honestly, they called him after day one. It would not make sense otherwise.
I could see them wanting both running backs because think back at what was going on with the Lions in April at that time. We all knew they're going to get a running back. It was around the same time, wasn't it? I forget if it was before or after the draft. Did Amir Abdullah open up his mouth a little bit and got a little... I don't know what the word is, but wasn't real thrilled about how he was being used.
Is it Guffy? Was he getting
Guffy?
Guffy?
Yeah, a little Guffy, a little lippy, a little Guffy about how he was being used or how he wasn't being used with the Lions. So the writing was probably on the wall that he wasn't going to be around. So I could see that they wanted, the Lions trying to make that move, and then immediately you could, or if they would try to trade Abdullah as part of that move. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me either, King. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of it, and I think there's probably a misunderstanding of the story he got. Like, the person who gave him the information, maybe he got it wrong, and it was like, no. They tried to move up to get Rashaad Penny, or they tried to trade with him before their pick came up in the second round.
This is what I think. I think they thought they got Ragnow. Rashaad Penny was widely regarded as a second round or later pick. When Seattle took him in the first round, it shocked the Lions. They called after day one and asked, what do you want for Rashaad Penny? That's what I think happened. I don't know why Glazer's so floored by it. I mean, he's more in the know than any of us, but that's exactly what I think happened. When they couldn't get a deal for Rashaad Penny, they drafted Kerryon Johnson. They moved up to get Kerryon.
I mean, let's also talk about, given the Lions' reputation, and not Bob Quinn's necessarily, but the Lions' reputation, it's easy to say, were they doing something that made no sense? Yeah, I mean, I think immediately Detroit fans go to that punch button response, well, they're the Lions doing something that wouldn't make any sense. Rashaad Penny's been coming on. Like, the last 2 games, he's averaged something like 7.5 yards per carry, but he hasn't played a whole ton.
Well, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah, well, and they've had 2 backs, and now he's getting more of an opportunity. So I'm not saying Rashaad Penny's going to be a bad back. I would imagine Detroit right now, currently, clearly they're pleased with Kerryon Johnson. It's hard to decipher what the hell Glazer's talking about here. Because the only thing that sounds like it would be unheard of is Monday after the draft they called, but I wouldn't even think that was unheard of. Do teams call on the Monday after the draft and say, hey, that guy you took, we're interested? Would that surprise you? Would that be something that, like, you'd never heard before?
I mean, this is just a strange story. I tend to think he just got something wrong, but we could always tweet him and ask him.
Well, let's do that. 248-539-9797. Ticket text 97136. Meanwhile, does it make sense? Would anything about it, what makes the most sense?
That the Lions would be interested in Rashaad Penny.
No, that the Lions wanted Rashaad Penny and Kerryon Johnson, or that the Lions wanted to trade Kerryon Johnson as part of a package for Rashaad Penny.
What makes the most sense?
Yeah, because if they did it the Monday after the draft,
if they did the Monday after the draft, then will make the most sense. Yeah, I don't know. I think they kind of both make sense there. Or you could make sense out of both of them. I mean, I wouldn't have done either of those, but you could kind of make sense out of both of them if they really valued Rashaad Penny like I did at the time, and you have Kerryon Johnson. Could you entice the Seabags to make that trade and give them a little something in addition to Kerryon? We'll give you Kerryon Johnson and a 4th-round pick, something like that. Would you accept that for Rashaad Penny? Could I see that? I guess if you really valued him, if he was that high on your board. But there's also the thought that there are plenty of years where teams go ahead and draft 2 running backs in the same draft. Like if here comes Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn are involved, they want to make a splash. They want to get their own guys in there, right? Amir Abdullah was not a Bob Quinn pick, correct?
No.
So he wants to get his own guys in there. Here the Lions have their stable running backs, Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick and Zach Zenner and Dwayne Washington. Dwayne Washington is the only one of those guys who's a Bob Quinn pick, correct?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
All right.
Back.
And then they signed as a free agent, signed LeGarrette Blount.
Zenner was a Bob Quinn free agent acquisition, was he not?
I thought he was brought in before Bob Quinn. Now, Bob may have brought him back as he's going through his Andre Fluellen phase right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I could totally see him saying, all right, I want my own stable of guys. We're going to blow some guys out. Maybe Theo Riddick doesn't hang, and maybe they would have let Theo Riddick go. Who knows if they wanted to have both of them at the same time.
There's 2 things about the story I really like. We'll get to that today at 10:18. And open line calls, Michigan, Indiana tomorrow at the Big House. Night game starting at 4 o'clock. It's basically a night game. Screw off Fox. Michigan State taking on Nebraska on the road. In what is that's a tough game, man. Nebraska's getting better. 248-539-9797.